Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Southeast Asia Conference on Media, Cinema and Art. We are now having the B1 parallel sessions, which is scheduled from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Hesutomo Restukuncoro, or you can simply call me Tom or Tommy, that's okay. I'm going to be your moderator for today's session. I am currently teaching International Relations at UPN Veteran Yogyakarta, and I am very to be here. Very honored to be given the trust and very excited because I've glanced over the abstracts and we have 4 very interesting articles that's going to be presented today. The first one is about how Thailand government repressions result in political art criticism. So it's a very interesting portrayal of how art can be used as a political tools, which is going to be presented by Ms. Wulan Kencana Ajani from Universitas Indonesia. The second article is about doxing. Doxing is quite novel issue in international politics, in domestic politics, because it's very closely related to the proliferations of new media. And we're going to see how doxing toward journalists especially is a threat to democracy in Indonesia, which is going to be presented by Rana Akbari Fitriawan from Universitas Telkom and Andri Haryanto from Universitas Indonesia. The third article is about gender equality, which is going to look at how gender equality activists actually sees the sensationalisms presented in the news reporting of sexual harassment cases, which is going to be presented by Muhammad Akbar Priyandanu, Ida Nuraini Dewi Kodratningsih, and Narayana Mahendra Prastya from Universitas Islam Indonesia. The last but not least, we're also going to listen to presentations about how watchdog documentary can have a very profound effect in the building of democratizations and civil society, especially in Indonesia, which is going to be presented by Chelsea Jessica, Farouk, and Sugeng Bayu Wahyono from Universitas Gadjah Mada. Before we start our first presentation today, I have to explain to you about the rules and regulation we're going to have for these sessions. First, each presenter is going to be given about 15 minutes to present their respective paper. After the 15 minutes is all for all presenters, so you have to divide the time by yourself. If you're presenting as a team, you need to finish by 15 minutes. So if you need to divide the time, you need to divide by yourself, or 15 minutes for each paper. After all of the papers have been presented, we're going to have a Q&A sessions, which is going to be for 30 minutes, and it's going to be for all the presenter. But if you have a questions for other presenter, please feel free to start writing your questions even before we get into the questions and answer sessions by writing in the chat box. You can use the chat box feature to write the questions. You need to specify to which presenter the questions is aimed, and also what is actually the questions, so that I can see I can make sure to present the question to the right presenter. And you can start from the first presentations. After all of the paper have been presented, and after we've had our Q&A sessions, before we end our sessions, we're going to have a taking pictures together, which is through Zoom. So I need you to turn on your camera at the very last moment, and then we can take our pictures together before we end our session today. If you have problems with presenting your PowerPoint slides or pre-recorded video, please let me or the co-host know about your problem so that we can anticipate and act accordingly. Now, I'm sure everyone have been excited, especially the presenters, of course, excited as well as nervous. So now we hear the first presentations. The paper is titled how Thailand government repression resulted to its thriving political art criticism. This is a very interesting portrayal how the conspiracy between the military and the crown resulted in a repression which responded quite ironically but also beautifully by what the author call as the political art criticism. To Miss Ulan Kencana Aji, the time and the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I would like to share my screen. Is that okay? Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay. I'll start the typing now then. Okay, hello everyone. Today I would like to retell about the paper that I have written. It's called How Thailand Government's Repression Resulted to Its Thriving Political Art Criticism. I will go on as the agenda. The first is I will explain the Thailand body politics, and then Thailand political issues, continuing with the censorship system in Thailand, and then artwork analysis, and then conclusion. Okay, then moving on. Body politics. Thailand as a country with constitutional monarchy, the constitution allocates the rest of the government power to the legislature and judiciary, which is the prime minister as the head of the government and the hereditary monarchy as the head of the state. Since becoming a Western-style constitutional democratic monarchy in 1932, most of the time the country has been ruled by military governments. The dispute and the struggles among the elites, old and new, civilians, new politicians, and military have occurred regularly since 1932, which I will explain later on. So, Thailand military power. Civil and military relations within a country is a classic problem that sustains and often leads to instability of the nation itself. Countries which undergo the transition from the authoritarian government to democracy often struggles with the democratic system adjustment throughout the years. For example, Thailand. Thailand is one of the examples, and now the country itself, it has a weak civilian supremacy, so that any problems in the country have the possibility to be ruled by the military force. This condition is indicated by the presence of military institutions to intervene in the process of several policy formulations and issues regarding military roles in the country. But it has changed throughout time, so which I will explain through the Thailand military coup. So Thailand has developed what experts call as a coup culture. They are seen as an acceptable way to solve a political crisis, and often it's the public calling for the military to step in. They view coup as a convenient tool for a quick fix. As seen here, from 1932 until up to 2014, Thailand has experienced a lot of coup with the basis of trying to stop the government.
Excuse me, Miss?
Yeah?
We're losing you.
Hello? Can you listen? Okay. Hello?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. So the military coup itself has went over years from 1932 until 2014 with the basis of the government failing to rule, such as corruptions and other stuff. But at the end of 2014, it actually went on until 2019, where a new constitution is written by the coup leaders, where they allowed an election to take place in March 2019. But the new law gives the military so many automatic seats in parliament that it would be most likely impossible for an opposition party to take control, which at the end, this is the funny part, I would say, the leader of the coup itself at the end became the prime minister, the current prime minister, problematic prime minister in Thailand. Moving on, it's Thailand's monarchy. In Thai society, the king is a figure of inestimable importance. But to Thai people, they could not see the current king, which is Vajiralongkorn. I'm sorry for the mispronunciation. As one of as like his father, the previous king. Why? Because they have a couple of demands. Because people are tired of the political weaponry. Because he always he amasses power, and he has gotten changes in constitution giving him the emergency power and allowing him to exercise this authority even when he is out of the country. And then people itself is also tired of the glorifying monarchy. And then the third is they want the abolition of the government who endorse a coup. And last is people wants the country's assets back because it has been said that he has taken control of estimated $43 billion in royal asset that has been for decades entrusted in Crown Property Bureau that is theoretically managed the money to benefit the Thai people, but now it is considered his asset. So because all of the problems that I have stated earlier, oh, sorry, there's one more problem, which is the Thailand against the pandemic. The initial response to COVID-19 was surprisingly effective, but as time went on, it didn't go as planned. While the Thai government had initially aimed to vaccinate 70% of the population, but then at the end, it was only 2.3 million, which is 2% of the population up until now. And they also only rely on one inexperienced manufacturer of AstraZeneca that is owned by the King Thailand. So technically, it has brought criticism because the money just keep rotating. And then it is also said that the unfair rollout of the vaccine have made a lot of people, even though they are fully vaccinated, they got infected after it. And of stronger vaccines like Moderna and others are only rolled out to army staff and families and corrupts government and higher ups. Okay, because all of these problems that I have stated earlier, Thailand have made now thriving Thailand youth movement that is led by the students. They have a lot of demands, but I could sum them up into three. For the first one is for the prime minister to resign. The second one is the constitution amendment and the royal monarchy reform. But due to the limitation of public speaking in Thailand, the people could only express their expression through platforms that are considered safe for the government censor. But not much are safe, actually. So, what are the regulations of the censorship in Thailand? It is the first one is the section 112 of the Thai Penal Code, or let's say Majesty Law. Those who defame and insult and threaten the king, the queen, or the heir apparent of the regent will be punished with imprisonment of up to 3 or 15 years. And there are also the 2017 amendment to Article 14 of the CCA, incriminating those found guilty of uploading information that would damage and maintenance of national security. And then the one that most people don't really know is the emergency decree. So it, of course, in the state of emergency, which is the pandemic, a lot of country also instated this emergency decree. But the problem is because due to a lot of political problems already in Thailand, this emergency decree has been used to overshadow to mix all of the it's used as one of the excuse, let's just say. If you, for example, if you are having a rally or a demonstration, it will spread corona. So those kind of misconduct could be used against you, even though you were just trying to voice your opinion. Okay. So the Thai censorship rate itself, this is through online. They have been given a score from the election in 2019 up 20 to 21 from the score 6, which is quite bad, into really bad in 2021. With the highest score is right now North Korea with a score 10. So 8 out of 10 is quite a high number. And so how is the censorship? So the censorship itself, it's based on, I have stated all of this. This is the basis of the law. This is the basis of the demonstrations, and this is the basis of the news outlet and social media. To sum up, it's basically said that the people of the Thailand, they could express their they could speak up and they could express their opinions freely, but of course within accordance, that they do not, let's just say, they do not say bad things to the government or the monarch, or yeah, this is the law basis. And then Thailand censorship and speech. This is one of the cases that happened in 2014. The first one is when all of the media got shut down and activists were convicted. And so in the rally, there used to be a speech, right? And when you do speeches, you state that your demands. But even though those demands didn't exactly utilize the government, but the government itself could twist your words and ended up you will get convicted. So that's why in Thailand there are less of these speeches, and because they wanted to evade those mistakes, they use symbolism in their rally instead. And then Thailand censorship and news outlet. News outlets itself also have been censored by the. A lot of censorship has been done by news outlet, and sometimes they do it entirely, or they take down the. They shut down the media for the news outlet for quite some times and then turn it back up. But the military will always be watching, so they have to be really careful on that. And social media itself is also the same. A lot of people right now has been charged against last time I just did law through social media. So even the celebrities are also a lot of celebrities has also been charged and under their watch. And that's why Thailand are trying to speak through art. The pioneering artists who in 2019 who started the movement are artists through accounts like Uninspired Events, Lucky Leg, Sally Creates, and other accounts. That's why I have chosen a couple of samples from their art, and I have tried to analyze them. And through this, I will use a semiotic approach, and I also analyze their comment columns to further logicalize them. So here is one of the example. Here is the police. The police itself is depicted here as a dog. Dog are said to be royal. Dogs are said to be loyals to their master. But here, as you can see, there's a dog food. Dog food here itself is depicted as the money, and the money given by the owner, which is the government, which is the military rule, and they gave them out to the police so they could, do. So they could still obey them. And then this one is entitled "Friends with Benefit." It means that the government the military benefited from the monarch, where the monarch gave them money and the military gave them weapons to stay in power. And this one is oh yeah, I forgot to mention that this one I have categorized them into 4, which is the I have categorized them into 4, which are which are government monarch right here, and then there's also mismanaging the pandemic. For example, here this is a ghost from Thailand that a ghost that is depicted as someone that is hungrier than humans, and these are the ones in power, and so that therefore they could get the vaccine first. So as you can see, this is all the this one is also mismanaging the pandemic. This one is freedom of expressions, and this one is the oppressive government. Maybe to speed it up, I'll jump to the conclusions. I will lead to the conclusions. So the artist tends to use symbolism associated with animals, such as maybe representing reptiles like crocodiles, big lizards, and dinosaurs as the higher military authority and the monarchy. and they uses monkey, rats, and flying termites as people who do corruptions. They tend to stick to their culture and inside jokes, such as using idioms and using mystical figures that only existed in their country, and sticking to their Buddhist root. And then symbolism that pops up sometime are also the same as the real one in the rally. And they also likes to use a popular reference, as in, for example, the death roll from the popular Squid Game. Right here, you could see it, and then the three finger salute from Hunger Games or Harry Potter. For example, the title Harry Potter and He Who Must Not Be Named. He who must not be named here means the government, the monarch, those. And then, in conclusion, some of the symbolism are too hard to understand as it has inside jokes and deep roots of Thai culture. Most of the comments from the people outside of the Thailand, they did not know what it meant. For example, and most of Thai people could not really comment much as writing their interpretation of it, as it could be harmful if their comments got tracked by the government. Some artists, though, provided a centered market for foreigners so they could understand them by using symbolism and idioms that is widely known throughout the world. So the people outside of Thailand could know what is happening in Thailand. Okay, I think that is all for my presentation. It's been 15 minutes already. Maybe I will stop sharing. Okay.
Okay, thank you to Ms. Jenny. That is a very interesting presentation. So we can see that how even in the bleakest of days, even in the most repressive governments, arts can actually thrive. We can see beautiful things appearing in times of darkness, and in this case, hilarious things. So I'll look at the pictures, and some of it are hilarious, but not to mention that they actually serve as important political tools in times when actual confrontation with the government can mean losing your freedom or even your life. Thank you, Ms. Ajani.
Yes, thank you.
I can't wait to see you again in the discussion sessions. Our next paper is titled Doxing Towards Journalists as a New Threat to Democracy in Indonesia. It is going to be presented by Rana Akbari Fitriawan from Universitas Telkom and Andri Haryanto from Universitas Indonesia. So doxing is actually a new term, for me at least. It's not something that you've heard years ago, at least not as often as today, because this has grown in side by side with the increasing use of new media. And this can actually lead to a threat in democracy, especially toward journalists. Without further ado, I'd like to invite the speakers, Rana Akbari Fitriawan and Andri Haryanto. The floor is yours. Is Mr. Rana and Mr. Andri with us?
Excuse me, I've checked the participants list and I don't think the presenters are present right now. So maybe we can skip to another speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Mr. Co-host. Okay. So while we wait for Mr. Rana Akbari Fitriawan and Mr. Andri Haryanto, we'll move forward to the next paper. The next paper is about the perceptions of gender equality activists in Yogyakarta on sexual harassment reporting in educational institution in Yogyakarta, which is based on a case study of sexual harassment cases at UGM and at Universitas Islam Indonesia. Our presenter is Muhammad Akbar Priyandanu, Ida Nuraini Dewi Kodratningsih, and Narayana Mahendra Prastya from Universitas Islam Indonesia. For Mr. Muhammad, Ms. Ida Nuraini, and Mr. Narayana, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Yes.
Yes.
Your voice is very clear.
Thank you so much. I would like to share the screen of my presentation. Wait a second. Where do I put it? Okay, suddenly the presentation is hiding. Okay, here we go. Committee, can you help me to share the screen of my presentation?
Sure. Wait a moment.
Can I send it through something? Because I think I'm not submit the presentation yet. Because there are several changing on the presentation.
Can you send it through the chat? Through the chat box?
Yeah.
Send the file
okay.
through the chat box, and I'll display, or my co-host can display.
Okay. Sure. Here we go. It's loading. Still waiting, still loading.
Is it still sending?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying to screen record from me. Okay. Is it shown?
Okay. Yeah, it's shown.
Yeah. Hello everyone. Wait a second. Is it still shown or not full screen, right?
Yeah, we can see your share screen very clear. You can start with the presentation.
Okay. Yes, I can. It failed. Okay. Hello everyone. Can you still hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, to the organizers, participating researchers, panel of reactors. Good morning, everyone. I mean, if it's afternoon already. It is absolutely a privilege for me to be participating at this prestigious Southeast Asia Conference on Media, Cinema and Art, an avenue for researchers to share findings of researchers with a noble aim to give invaluable contribution to our respective fields of discipline. Organized by Center for Southeast Asian Social Studies, Universitas Gadjah Mada. I'm also delighted to be engaging in the same platform with research enthusiasts. Before I proceed further, I would like to introduce Mr. Narayana and Mrs. Ida, who is also co-authoring this paper of mine. Actually, they pushed me to do this, and I thank them for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be the oral presenter for my research paper entitled Perceptions of Gender Equality Activists Based on Islamic Organization Toward Reportage on Sexual Violence. Co-authored, of course, by Mr. Nara and Mrs. Ida. I'm Akbar as the first author. Yeah, it's changing already, right? Okay. This research actually started from how we're thinking about the Sustainable Development Goals as an important thing that made by United Nations. In the fifth point, there is gender equality. So we are going to talk about gender equality in a specific area as a gender equality activist in Indonesia, because the gender equality activists have the big impact on how society will be educated by them on the education about the gender equality itself. Okay, and then the background of this research actually based on the annual reports Catahu of the National Commission on Violence Against Women, Komnas Perempuan. It is known that there was a significant decrease in reported cases of violence against women in 2020 compared to compared to the previous year in 2019. The number of reported cases of violence against women was 431,178. Which then decreased in 2020 to 299,911 cases. Based on the fact sheet and key points of the 2020 Komnas Perempuan annual note, it is known that a significant decline is estimated at 31%. So that serious action is needed to examine more deeply to find out cases that are not reported and that occur in the personal realm. Okay, Komnas Perempuan also identified some action or some cases that been reported by them according to the sexual violence itself. There are rape, sexual intimidation, sexual harassment, sexual exploitation, trafficking of women for sexual purposes, forced prostitution, sexual slavery, forced marriage, forced pregnancy, forced abortion, forced contraception and sterilization, sexual torture, inhuman punishment and homosexual feel, tradition practices that are sexually nuanced or discriminate against women, and the last one is sexual control. So, Komnas Perempuan also define the sexual harassment. According to Naskah Akademik Rancangan Undang-Undang tentang Kekerasan Seksual or the academic text of the Draw Law in the Elimination of Sexual Violence, Komnas Perempuan saying that the criminal act of sexual harassment is the criminal act of sexual harassment includes any physical or non-physical act against another person related to the sexual desire or hasrat seksual and or a person's reproductive function which result in someone feeling humiliated, intimidated, or direndahkan dan atau dipermalukan. In bahasa Indonesia we call that. In a study entitled Reporting on Sexual Violence Against Women in Magdalena.co in the Perspective of Gender Journalism, conducted by Fahima et al. 2021, stated that reporting on various forms of sexual violence in Indonesia has attracted public attention based on the annual records of Komnas Perempuan, who stated that the most reported cases of sexual violence were rape 34%, sexual harassment for 22%, trafficking in women for sexual purposes, it's about around 21%. The trend of media coverage in reporting cases of violence is currently feared to have a certain effect on the public's perspective on cases of violence, especially sexual violence, which is often found in various news of objectifying women through the use of language, visualization, illustration, and opinion given by sources or newsmaker itself. Okay, the detail of the research is this research we're going to discuss and talk about what is the perception of gender equality activists based on Islamic organizations toward reportage on sexual violence. As we all know that Islam religion is define gender as a specific and something different with all people or feminists already agreed with the definition of what gender is. The research proposes is this study aims to describe the perception of gender equality activists based on the Islamic organizations toward reportage on sexual violence. Okay, the framework or the theory, I use the two kinds of theory. There are perceptions and news. For perceptions, I quoted from Mulyana, 2019. He said that perceptions includes sensing or sensation through the sense of touch, sight, smell, taste, and hearing, attention, and interpretation. Perception as an internal process, which is the core of a communication activity, according to him. If the perception is not accurate, it will be an obstacle in the communication process. So perception itself is something that we all agree call it as intrapersonal communication. And then Suciati, on her book in the title of Islamic Psychological Communication in 2016, said that perception is a process of meaning to anything that stimulates one's senses. The result of the perception will be considered in carrying out the stages of giving a response, either in the form of attitude or behavior. Okay, here I show you the perception forming process based on DeVito 2011. There are the occurrence of stimulation of the senses or sensory stimulation. In the early stages of the senses are subjected to a stimulation process. For example, listening to the other person, watching television, smelling perfume, tasting food, feeling a rough hand when shaking hands, and so on. And the second one is stimulation of the senses is regulated. In this second stage, the senses are controlled based on the various principles. The most commonly used principle is the principle of proximity or similarity and resembles an object, a person, or message that it physically has similarities or and then perceived together or considered as a unit. Then another principle is completeness. And then the third one is stimulation of sensory tools is interpreted. In this third process, the process of interpretation and evaluation is combined with the intention that these two processes cannot be separated. The interpretation carried out there is not only affected or destimulated externally, but also influenced by the past experiences, needs, desires, and value system, beliefs about what should be physical and emotional condition at that time, and so on that exists in the humans. Even though a group of people receive the same message, but they will interpret it as different things. The way each person is interpreting an evaluation is of course different. Even this interpretation and evaluation will also be different in the same person from time to time. The factors that affecting perception, there are three different things: object, senses, and attention, quoted by Walgito in World 2015. I'm gonna make it short, so I just move to the next theory about the news itself. I'm quoted from Haryati and Arianto. Actually, Haryati said the mass media is one of the instruments that also plays a significant role in shaping the construction of gender in society. The mass media have considerable power to disseminate message or information, influence, reflect on the culture, and even grow a society perspective or of view on gender. Besides, Arianto 2012 said that the constructionist concept views the mass media as agents of message construction, then assumes that news is not a reflection of reality, but a construction of reality itself. Journalists do not only act as reporters, whether they realize it or not, they are also participants in the diversity of interpretations and subjectivity in the public. Okay, here I show you the differences between constructionist and positivist perspective according to the media, journalists, and news itself. Constructionists believe that fact is a construction of reality. The truth of a fact is relative, applies according to a certain context. But positivists say that there are real facts governed by certain universally applicable rules. Constructionists say that news is subjective. Besides, positivists say that news is objective. Constructionists also believe that values, ethics, or partisanship of journalists cannot be separated from the process of reporting an event. Positivists believe that values, ethics, and opinions or moral choices are outside the news reporting process. Okay, I explain you the methods of this research. The first one is types and approach. This research uses perception analysis method with qualitative approach and constructive paradigm. The time and the location of this research is carried out for a period of 6 months, starting from November 2020 and to May 2021, and located around the special region of Yogyakarta. Since in Yogyakarta we have so many campuses or educational institutions with so many cases of sexual violence itself. So the informant I choose on this research is Center for Gender Studies Universitas Islam Indonesia, Sri Kandi Universitas Islam Negeri Sunan Kalijaga, and Sri Kandi Universitas Islam Indonesia. So the method that I use to analyze the data that I get, I use two types of method. There are primary and secondary. For primary, I have focus group discussion as a primary data collection technique with the aim of obtaining varied data through the perspective of each research person. Besides the interview, the type of informal interview with the interview method, in-depth interview, in order to get personal, in-depth, and comprehensive information from the informant. And the secondary one is observation and literature review. Researchers also conduct studies on the theories, information, and data from various sources or references such as book and related documents. Okay, for the data analysis of this research, using the data analysis components, the interactive model 1, according to the Miles Haberman quoted on Sugiono 2017. There are collecting the data reduction, and then the display data, and then find the interpreted data. So the result and discussion is, the first one is found out that the perception of news, how the gender equality activists said that there are 3 kinds of perceptions of news. There are non-gender perspective news, dramatization and sensationalism, and also the importance of literacy. For non-gender perspective news, they said that the news is very open for the survivor's identity and then intensity of reporting on the victims or the survivor, the phenomenon of female objectification and the phenomenon of female objectification. Sorry, I make it double. Dramatization and sensationalism. For this dramatization and sensationalism, I use I found out that how media is hyperbole cases of sexual violence. We all know that we can see it clearly on the media in this era. There are certain interests that the media need to put on news itself, how they handle the mass itself, and the contradictory diction. For the importance of literacy, there are media literacy and literacy read and write. Through focus group discussion session and interview with exciting gender equality activists, community informant, it can be ensured that all the informant access online news and sexual harassment cases. According to Suciati 2016, it is stated that perception is a process of meaning to anything that stimulated one's senses. The results of the perception will be considered in carrying out the stages of giving a response, either in the form of attitude or behavior. And then I found out for the second findings is about perception of sexual harassment cases. The first one is patriarchal culture. It includes with the victim blaming phenomenon, social construction, and also the power relations inequality itself. The second one is case regulation. They are handling how the government or the institution of education is handling the case, how they educate people to stop the case of sexual harassment, and then the prevention, as we all want that the sexual harassment not gonna happen again. The third one, or the last findings for this research, is perceptions of news criteria. They are very tricky. Not tricky. They are very picky for the news that they will consume as a gender equality activist. They said that there are 3 different types or perceptions of news criteria. There are actual and factual researches and news writing. For actual and factual, they said that they want to news it to be up to date, focus on the case, not going anywhere, valid and credible, and also detailed and comprehensive to inform about the incident or the case. And then the researches, the gender perspective and also various perspective. It's we can correlate this with the gender journalism. And then news writing, there are diction and language that it is easy to understand to make all the all the readers understand with what the information gonna say. And then the last one is 5W plus 1H writing rules that we also understand. I believe that. So the conclusion is the perceptions of news, like perception of sexual harassment cases, and also the perceptions of news criteria that I already mentioned before. I also want to show you the impact or recommendation for this research. For the academic suggestions, it is hoped that further research that discuss similar topics to make it expand the scope of the research object and focus on more in-depth discussion. And not only that, they also can use another method of research like mixed method or even quantitative research model. for practical suggestion for reporting cases of sexual violence, so that they can use a gender-friendly perspective. And then the existence of gender journalism needs to be socialized more intensively, so that it can be known by journalists and even the general public. And then the fourth public suggestion, socialization of media literacy and literacy programs to the public, so that people can be wiser in consuming news and information from various sources. And also the public must be more selective and wise in responding to the news, not only to rely on one source. There are some major references. Thank you.
Thank you for Mr. Akbar Priyandano and partners. That is a very interesting take on not just the case, not just the news, but also how we can actually be more gender inclusive, not just in actions, but also in how we actually report the events. As this is not something that is I don't think that this is something many journalists in Indonesia are familiar with, gender perspective on reporting. But I believe that this is something that can lead to not only a better reporting, but also actual changes in the field. So thank you, Mr. Akbar. Please stay for the Q&A sessions after all the presenters have presented. Our next paper is about watchdog documentary. This is actually one of my hobby to watch underground documentary in YouTube, because as sad as it is, most actual worthy documentary cannot be actually presented on TV, and recent viral documentary actually led the creator to prison. So I think this is a very important issue. The title of the paper is Democratization Zone in Watchdog Documentary, which is going to be presented by Chelsea Jessica, Farouk, and Sugeng Bayu Wahyono from Universitas Gadjah Mada. For Chelsea Jessica and team, the floor is yours. Hello, Miss. We can see you, but we can't hear your voice. Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay. Thank you. It makes me panic. Okay, can I share my screen?
Would you like? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, this is my presentation. My title of is Democratization Zone by Watchdog Documentary Makers. Since 2009 until now, the existence of watchdog documentary has increased, proof the actual colors in Indonesia democracy recognized by the world. The essential ideological spirit coloring many reasons from Adi Panca and Dandi Dwi Laksana established this documentary production house produced achievement. In 2021, Watchdog have won 2 awards: the Special Prize 2021, the Guangzhou Prize from Human Rights, and the Raymond Magsaysay Awards in Emergent Leadership category. But awards address of those for fight the environment, democratization, and human rights. Watchdog embraces the television journalism, but it is free from censorship and other controlling apparatus. It presents group the view of the documentary publication that generally made to attend documentary film festival. According to Eric Saxono, Watchdog as a documentary activist explore the hidden problems of the media and being a cheaters who behind the contemporary media behalf of the soft news program. The format of the Watchdog organization has become an essential factor in debate about the Indonesian public spheres, just like Samin and Semen, Asymmetries, and Sexy Killers film become a familiar among the public academy and along the documentary lovers. Habermas mentioned the public spheres emerged from the world of life, not product system by country and markets. In Watchdog, the public spheres articulation through YouTube and Nobar, nonton bareng or watch together with the prison discussion program, a space of foster public opinion in the new public spheres as an alternative media and dismissed political and market domination vulnerability. In my question is how Watchdog phenomenon documentary maker make a relationship with the public sphere and become the publication zone from Jagger Habermas' point of view. The method, I use the interpretative description approach based on the interpretation activities. In this, Jagger Habermas' point of view has analyzed the object, namely the democratization zone of Watchdog. The result, the development of public space show the accurate of the democratic process through the ability to communicate. A Watchdog act as the communicator, then act to inform, to advocate the community, and creates the discussion sphere in the YouTube comment field and watching together by Nobar. This condition can prove that Watchdog commitment in funding the public spheres is in effort. Another distribution channel through the Watchdog channel YouTube, Watchdog publication sphere in apply to the publication public spheres identified by Habermas, namely the political spheres, public sphere, and the literary public spheres. When the political public spheres form both Watchdog account on the YouTube channel in Watchdog documentary and Watchdog image. Then the idea of the public sphere of the space is not adopted, not without effort, with the many challenges, especially when the society is not relation enough to prove the argument and the possibility from the exchange information that can be trusted. And the second is the literary public spheres present through the public literacy awareness begin to increase with the emergency of the publication and public discussion about art, artistic and literary. Then in the implementation of the Nobar Watchdog generally carries open the public spheres such as cafe, where the large then the gathering freely pouring their dialectic into the discussion and discourse based on the commentary threads. In the end, the cafe is not purposed to coffee simple, because it creates a space that can be function as a place of critical discussion, and to borrow the term, Habermas is the place of opposite. In the end, we found that a watchdog is increasingly known for these critical available documentaries, and we offer to implement Nobar become the disease and awaited by the community, an extraordinary phenomenon in the YouTube era. People choose to watch together, and it takes struggle to get people in the event. Optimism arises from the seeing the community, friends, and the production of documentaries. They can create the new atmosphere. Even the new gathering has been yet a movement. And the soul becomes from the democratization, from being transmitted the border community through the public spheres he created. So absolutely, the public spheres of the YouTube and Nobar is the democratization zone by Watchdog, considering a documentary that in fact non-fiction, it used accurate figure in an event. So Watchdog declare in itself a speaker to assert to opposite the weak, inaudible voice and no access to voice, and even the silence of the interest group. It takes a control to share the conscious, the control to intensive. We have the specific ways regardless of the extent importance and person opinion of Nobar or comment on YouTube. Through the watchdog documentary, people often critical making, and this condition create a new culture. Both types of public spheres create the watchdog have essential rules named the source of information and profit space of the public to conduct public discussion and debate. As watchdog dominant public sphere organizing become a place of solves public problems and balancing independent journalists and guardian freedoms. With this condition comes public opinion that generally represent to the interest and of the entire public. Public opinion then expected can be used as the basis for the birth of public policy. If afford to the public, which will improve. Pancha explained the philosophy of watchdog come up play from watchdog with G. It is watchdog in ideology of journalism. Watchdog come from the algorithm of documentary, which means supervising with the documentary. It can convolute the meaning of the watchdog or watch documentary itself means sharing with the documentary. Based on above the description, proof can be claimed that watchdog is Habermasian, based not only on the he has done, but also what this transforms to society through the information advocacy, the fosters the spirit and critical thinking. Watchdog proof that watchdog is watchdog Indonesia. Kovac states that the resistance to definition of the journalism is not principle. Indeed, the resistance is relative, arises due commercial impulse. So the Habermas said the social life and language are such as a character that conflict will always present. Those models are to die to consensus review of the thing of the threat to democracy. They cast the majority hegemony demands for the them to conform to some of conscious frame. So this is the offer of the next perspective to the future was that lead the political economy media or use the hegemonic of documentaries. Thank you. Hello?
Yeah. Is that all? Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah. Is that all, Miss?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I lost connections for a second back then.
Oh.
Okay. Okay, thank you for Miss Jessica and partners. Unfortunately, I have just heard from my co-host that one of the paper is not going to be presented today because the authors have informed us that they couldn't make it to the presentation, so we have to skip that and we can go directly to Q&A sessions. I have looked at the chat box and I've seen one question directed to Akbar Priyandanu and friends. The question is to Akbar Priyandanu. Did you find that their perceptions of the news are also related to Indonesian's government's policy, especially about women, human rights, and human rights policy in general?
Okay. Thank you so much, as to Tomo, and then of course for Mbak Senja Yustitia. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I like to answer the question. So on this research, when I check the data, ketika pengumpulan data kepada seluruh or to all the participants of the gender equality activists from based on the Islamic organization itself, actually the finding is more about like their perception on their experience in consuming the media itself. Like for example, when they are read the online news for the sexual violence cases, on how they are keep themselves updated from the news. We also understand that different news with different point of view, different news with different kind of perspective. So that's the question. How would the gender equality activists itself make their self perception on making a movement for that? As we all know that the gender equality activists have a big impact of the gender equality education, especially like Women's March Yogyakarta or Pusat Studi Gender or even Sri Kandi in every campus, I guess, especially in Yogyakarta, UGM have Sri Kandi, UII have Sri Kandi, UIN have Sri Kandi, and many others. We also believe that the way they are trying to educate more people about the gender equality issues, about the perspective on how people understand about the gender or even the journalism itself, because in some program they also like making a program that specify on literacy of media and so on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you to Akbar Priyandanu. I do have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. So, do you think that the media still see these cases not as an actual human cases, but simply another day in their business, and the victims are not victims, but simply an object of the news, which they see as only a way towards, more readers, more profits? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, actually, on the panel session yesterday, we also talked about the fate of journalism in the region between freedom, security, and responsibility, right? And I have marked on something that we also understand as a market-driven journalism. So, market-driven journalism is something that we believe, or a word that the meaning is the journalism system is not like all the media. I mean, all the media need to have that healthy media system. So many journalists is making something not right, and we all facing that the survivor or the korban in sexual violence cases objectified, especially for women. Or maybe Mr. Narayana want to detail.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Akbar. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, adding to the Akbar answer, that one trend in the news media practical is they only coverage some issue when the issue is getting down, slower down, and they will change their news coverage, their time of coverage. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Akbar and Mr. Narayana. Very interesting insights. The next question is for Ms. Ajani, Ms. Wulan Kencana Ajani. It is very interesting knowing that how repression resulted in the birth of new wave of activism, where its flexibility really helpful for the artists to deliver their message, especially in non-violent way, while avoiding repressive law. My question is, do you think it is enough for these people to give more echo to their demands, deliver messages and informations, recruit more participants, and give more pressure to those in power by doing all this for art? Knowing that currently there is a big generational gap between the older conservative religious generations and the young protesters, especially in their perceptions on current political crisis and the way they translate the art itself. So basically, do you think this is very interesting, but do you think that this is enough, considering that probably the older generations in Thailand is not exactly a connoisseur of arts? And if you look at the art style, I think it's safe to say that the arts is actually intended to be viewed by the young generation. Is that the point, or do you think that more should be done?
Okay, thank you for the question. So, actually, the aim of the artist itself is, at the first place, it was to due to the censorship in Thailand, media, a lot of media, Thai medias, they cannot make articles that are in English, and so. Well, we all know understanding Thai language itself is pretty hard, and so therefore, like, if you were to if there's like the censorship of the articles inside of Thailand, it's pretty strict. So actually, the aim of all the artists is to spread the news outside of Thailand, that Thailand, the land of smiles, Thailand, your favorite, let's just say your favorite holiday destination, it's actually facing this kind of situation right now, and especially in the pandemic. So I think but whether it is effective or not, or whether it is enough or not, I feel like it could be enough if as we all know, I am myself. I do art on the side, and I have known a lot of artists in Thailand too. Their art roots are more driven towards. They have the Buddhism they have a Buddhism roots on the art. So whenever I saw all the illustrations from social media, sometimes I could not really understand it because I don't have a deeper understanding of Buddhism, because I myself am not Buddhist. So I think, but for drawings that are pretty general in use of symbolism and idioms, I could understand. So I think if the main the main idea of them wanting other people in the world to see it to succeed, I think they have to cater more to the cater more to using symbol and idioms that people outside would actually understand. And I think whether it's actually spreading outside or and whether people now outside realized what is happening in Thailand or not, I think it is actually a good method, because right now we all know that there's something called the non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, and it makes the spread of art faster throughout the so I think, and the point of it conveyed through art is so that the government wouldn't really notice that people have been posting this kind of things outside, so it would actually does not get censored. I think that's the main idea that they were trying to convey. Yes.
I do have a follow-up question, if you don't mind. Seeing this, and also you said that it's presented on the internet, and I happen to love looking at memes on the internet, and in recent years memes have been used by political activists in Myanmar, in Croatia, in Ukraine to actually present their political opinion. Is this also the case in Thailand? Is internet memes, if the audience is international, I think memes would be the way to go. And do you think this is also in your research, do you find that this is also the case in Thailand? How prominent were internet memes?
So maybe in Thailand they don't really see it as memes, because the art root itself in Thailand is pretty deep. Whenever you go to Thailand, wherever it is, wherever city it is, they always have this. They always have a prominent, let's just say, artwork that are centered to their Thailand's culture. They always have their. So I don't think, maybe it could be considered as memes. They could make them be considered as one, but so far they're only making it as an illustration that are surrealism, like that, and is more of a satire, I would say, rather than, because they're pretty sensitive about their culture itself. So making them one as memes, could be dangerous if were to be found out by the government, I think.
One more question. You also mentioned that some of these arts actually have roots in Buddhism, but I also happen to know that Buddhism is actually being used widely by the government and by the junta as a propaganda tools. So is there a discrepancy there? Is there, how exactly Buddhism plays a role in Thai society? Do the people actually think that Buddhism is a propaganda tools, or do they actually think that Buddhism is being used by the government and it needs to be safe? Or how is Buddhism actually located in the discourse?
Okay, so Buddhism is portrayed through, they symbolizes things, right? So for example, in the this is what my friend that Thai told me. What do you call those? The flowers. Sorry.
Mandala.
No. The flowers. Wait. So the flowers on the pond. The flowers on the pond. What is that flower? I forgot.
Lotus.
Oh yes. Sorry. Yeah. Lotus. So lotus. Lotus itself. It has. They have a. Let's just say lotus that are raised above grounds are the higher ups, are the ones that are royalties, and the civilians and the ones that are underprivileged are lotus that are under the swamp. So they have their, that's also like an, I must say what it's quite, it could be like a, that's a symbolism in Buddhist that is widely used in Thai art work. And also, for example, they kind of make it a satire, where they use figures as in, maybe I, because of the time, I didn't really portray the artwork earlier as well. But there are angels, angels in Thailand. So from the Buddhist itself that are carrying, let's just say, vaccine, those kind of things. So, and it is to portray that they were given something from the descended from the above. So it's kind of like, to summarize, it's more of a symbolism and idioms, the use of it. Yes.
Thank you, Ms. Jani. That is also very interesting insights. I learned something new today. I actually, my expertise also on democracy in Southeast Asia, and I learned a lot of things from you today. Okay. Next, we currently don't have any questions from attendees. So if you have any questions, or if you want to, if the presenters want to ask questions to other presenter, I invite you to do so. But in the meantime, I do actually have a question for another presenter, which is Miss Chelsea Jessica. Are you still with us?
Yeah.
Yeah. Miss Chelsea, I think it's interesting to see how you put Watchdog as a documentary filmmaker in a democratization zone and serve as a, to replace the missing link. We know that the democracy in Indonesia is, in a sense, broken, in the sense that we don't really feel represented by those who we actually chose during the election. We don't actually feel that they up there is presenting our interests. And to some people, this documentary is actually serve as a healer, in the sense that some people, at least those who are portrayed by the documentary, actually feel represented more so than their actual representations. But I also see that in the case of movies, documentary, they're not actually very democratic in the process of the filming, in the sense that, you know, they have a team and they created it, and they portray information to us, and we cannot simply ignore the fact that these filmmakers also have their own interests, also they have their own agenda. And how do you think that affects the role of these documentaries in the democratization process of Indonesia, or the democratic consolidation process of Indonesia? Because, you know, they're not, do you think that these documentaries should be held accountable in some sense, or do you think that they actually serve their purpose by portraying something that is not commonly portrayed by other media?
Yeah, maybe it's the same as a usual film or news, like Akbar said. It's can be constructed something by someone who's or communities that have been sold that or purpose to maybe for another reason. Watchdog, for early, we can say that he wants to build the emancipation from the public to by the gathering, and maybe sometimes they want to make the public think, what should we do, or we have to do something. And one webinar I ever heard by Dandi, she said something about the purpose of the why they make the issue, why they follow the issue, but they don't have any incomes from that for build the for documenter. But she but then the public, the netizen said, we have to do something. We have to fund or collect the money for for a watchdog to make another film, another documentary to prove what have untold story happen in Indonesia like that. Maybe it is can answer the question.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting also to see that in Indonesia that we have to resort to this kind of things, and I'm not trying to compare apple to oranges, but in Indonesia, when such documentary is being presented on TV or on YouTube, mostly on YouTube, people are actually quite divisive about this. There are people who actually thinks that this kind of documentary is shedding some lights on things that have been covered up by the government. But some people also think that this kind of documentary can actually affect the stabilities and can also actually become a threat to the security of the country. Do you think that's exactly what's the point is, to make people, to make people not feel comfortable, to make people actually see that not everything is going well. There are something that's not going well, and you should not be actually feel comfortable in your home because there are these people who are actually affected badly by things that you actually enjoy, that we actually enjoy doing Zoom using electricity based on plans and companies who actually have negative impacts on. But do you think that's the main role, or do you think,
that's why I said it watchdog zone. Maybe they want to collect the inspiration or want to get movement after the increase something for the build the emotional from people. That's why they make a public space and offer the nobar in everywhere. But actually, in pasca democracy eras like this time, it's very, very dangerous for us to be organized, because the last documentary like nobar in some place, when the end game published, some place is not being safe to make the even clearly, because some spy or many posts come to see the movement. I think it's, like I said, that the movement.
Okay. Yeah. So this can be not just about movies, but also about creating a movement, creating a momentum. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Chelsea Jessica.
Thank you very much.
I would like to invite other presenters if you have questions to be presented to your fellow presenters. No, if not, then I think that's our session for today. I would like to once more thank. Yes.
There's
Miss Ulan. Would like to ask a question? Oh, no. There's a.
Is it a? Oh.
Would you like to ask a question?
No, there's a question on the chat. Is that the one that I just wait?
Yeah, that's the one that I just asked. Or is it directly to you? If it's directly to you, then I cannot see it.
No, never mind.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay, I think that's if no more question is being presented to the floor, I think that's for our session today. But before we end, I would like once more to thank all the presenters. Not only have I learned a lot of things today, I also enjoyed this moment tremendously. This is as informative as it is exciting. And I'm also sad that we actually don't have more presenters, but I think I'll just fill my needs by go to other Zoom rooms. And if you also want to join us in other conference, you are welcome to do so. We have a 100 member Zoom, so I don't think it's going to fill up. So feel free to join other Zoom room based on the schedules that we have given to you. But before we end our session today, I would like to invite all attendees to turn their camera on so that we can have a photo session together. If you can open your mask, then please. If you cannot, based on your circumstances, then don't feel forced to do so. Okay. I'm going to take the picture in, wait, okay. 1, 2, 3. Okay, wait, Miss Ratna is still turning on her camera. I'm going to redo the pictures in 1, 2, 3. Wait. Okay, one more. You can change your expressions or style. I don't actually have any other style. This is all of my pictures like this. Just me sitting here with a dead smile. Okay, I'm going to do one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, Miss Ida Nuraini. I'm sorry. Let's just redo the picture so that Miss Ida can be in the pictures, the second pictures. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I think we got it. Okay, I would like to once more thank you for all the presenter, Miss Wulan, Miss Chelsea, Mr. Akbar, Mr. Narayana, Miss Ida, and all the other attendees who have presented their questions to make these discussions as exciting as it is informative, as it is enjoyable. I would like to also ask for your apology if during my guidance, during my being the moderator in the sessions, I have any mistakes, I have any flaws. I would like to apologize. And with that, I would like to end the sessions, and I really hope that we can see each other again in other occasions. Perhaps we can work together. This is, I think all of the people in this room is from the same academic field, communication studies, political studies. So I hope that we can see each other again in the future and work together. That's all for today's sessions. I would like to say goodbye and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.